Gives me great pleasure now to welcome Steve Budin to our show. He's the president of SportsInfo.com. He's written a book, a new NBA referee gambling policies, David Stern, and the new book is called Bets, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. Steve, thanks for joining us tonight.
How's it going, Bruce?
Really good. First question and comment I seek from you is the one good thing about the referee scandal that occurred, to me, was seeing David Stern eat crow. As you well know, Steve, in press conferences before, Stern would treat members of the media with disdain if they even alleged that there was a possibility of wrongdoing by an official or a player.
Right.
And he had to stand in front of that podium, and the expression on his face is like, my goodness, he just lost his wife.
You're right, but let's look at that situation a little closer. And if we do, we realize, look, I'm not a David Stern fan, but I respect the genius of David Stern. And look what he did. He released this story in the dead of the summer, 2 months ago, knowing well that by the time the season came around, you know, it would be a dead issue. And that had this, and by the way, they're investigating this story for 18 months. This is not something that they just happened upon. And and if you believe that David Stern didn't know this investigation was going on, I've got a bridge in Staten Island I want to sell you. Because he knew everything that was going on. And what he did was he made his deal. I would assume he made his deal with the FBI and said, we'll help, we'll assist, but this story doesn't break until July or August because I don't want to have a problem come October when the NBA comes around. Then I think what happened in his last conference is he got so drunk off the Kool-Aid that he was dishing us out over the summer that this wasn't going to affect the integrity of the league, that he actually came out and said, hey, you know, not only do we don't have a gambling problem, but I'm going to encourage now for the first time in the history of the NBA for my refs to go frequent Las Vegas casinos because I think the rule banning refs from casinos is outdated.
Yeah, well, let me get to that in a minute because I know that's in your book and you make a big point of that. But let's go back to that investigation. I find it interesting what you say as far as the timing of when he released the story about Donaghy. But, Steve, let me ask you this. In the ongoing investigation, it's been so quiet, as you point out. Have they found any other wrongdoing, or do you suspect that there was any other referees that were guilty of this wrongdoing? Because it seems very, very unlikely that other refs did not know that Donaghy was involved.
Well, my personal feeling, I don't know this, but my personal feeling is it was that Donaghy, this is something that Donaghy would keep under wraps. He wouldn't want, when you got a good thing going, when you got a license to steal, when you can call fouls on both teams and equally and have nobody even realize you're running the score for the purposes of a total, getting everybody in the penalty within the first 4 minutes of every quarter, that's something that you don't blurb out. Plus, when you're dealing with shady characters the way that Donaghy was, I don't think this was something I would think he wasn't sleeping very well, but I don't think he was blabbing to his friends. What they did find was that there were, I think, what they stated, over 25 referees that had broken the gambling policy by making a bet in a casino, and that's what prompted, Stern to come out and dismiss it like that was no big deal. But let me tell you something. In the 50s and 60s, when basketball fixing was invented, and I speak about it in my book in Chapter 4, this is the breeding ground. This was the place that these game fixers would notoriously hang out in Las Vegas casinos, lurking, waiting for that referee in the off season to bust out one day at the casino so they could approach him and say, hey, you want to make some money the easy way.
Right, and especially you see a referee, these dastardly characters would be, you'll say he's at the blackjack table and he's taking a bath, and they're easy prey, as you point out in the book.
And the thing about it is that Stern, now listen, I don't necessarily even disagree with the position that referees are adults and should be trusted to be adults, but my point is that the arrogance of David Stern to come out and say something like that and to make a move like that right on the heels of the Donaghy scenario was awful timing, and it shows that he's not really in touch with what the gamblers out there are thinking. The gamblers out there are concerned. I have sportsinfo.com as my company. We've gotten over 1,000 emails since the Donahue scenario broke in the summer about gamblers that are just weary about the NBA. And it's been the dirty little secret in the NBA that the refs have more control than in any other league. Have you ever seen in baseball an umpire call back a home run for an offensive foul?
Yeah, well, that leads, I'm glad you brought that up, because that leads me to my next point. I had reacted to the story, Steve, that despite the steroid problem in baseball, despite all the wrongdoing by individuals in the NFL, this was going to be a cloud hanging over the NBA, because you know as well as I do, NBA officiating, there's no rhyme or reason. I mean, they allow these guys in the NBA to molest each other underneath, yet a little ticky-tack pinky touching on the outside and a guy goes to the line.
Too much discretion, not enough black and white.
But in this case, you know, Stern has, I mean, it doesn't seem as we start the season tonight that this is going to be the black mark, black cloud, call it what you want, over the NBA that I originally thought it was going to be.
Every time there's a questionable call at the end of a game, you're going to hear the viewers who, and let's realize this, the viewers really are the gamblers. Not that there's really anybody watching left anymore, but whoever is watching, believe me, they've got a bet on the game. That's a tough enough product to watch when you have a bet on the game.
Right.
Without a bet on the game, if Atlanta's playing Boston in Atlanta on a Sunday night, half the stadium's filled and less people are watching on TV. Believe me, more kids that I run into in the street know about the N1 games than know about the NBA games. Yeah. So Stern's got a bigger problem on his hands than referees gambling, and that is getting people to watch again.
You know, I said in the past, let me just say this to you. Steve Budin is with us, who's written a book, Bets, Drugs, Rock and Roll. He has a company, sportsinfo.com. I said to callers in the past when the Cavs would get, you know, some bad calls go against them and a caller would say, oh, the game was fixed. And I said to the caller, you're crazy. Right. You don't know what you're talking. Steve, I'll never be able to say that to a caller again if the Cavs get some questionable calls.
You will under one condition. And it's the same condition that eliminated the problem there was with game fixes in the 50s and 60s with the NBA and with college basketball. The way to fix the problem in the NBA with the refs, it's a very simple solution. You've got to pay the refs. You've got to pay them something significant. No longer can you pay them $250,000 a year. When you have a referee that has the game in his hands in the last few minutes, if I could deliver you to the Cavaliers a player that could change the outcome of a game consistently in the last 3 minutes and tilt it towards your side, how much would you pay that player? $10 million? $20 million? Any number. But you want to pay the ref who can do the same exact thing as that player, you want to pay him $250,000. There's something wrong with that scenario, and you can't judge it against the other leagues,
right?
Because the other leagues have protection clauses in there.
And the other thing, Steve, in the other leagues, even a home plate umpire, it can't affect the outcome of a game because he has no control of that hitter making contact and putting it over the fence. In the NFL, there's no way. How can the back judge determine? I mean, you've got to be lucky enough for the ball to come into your field of responsibility. They use 7 officials in the NFL, but in the NBA, they really have control.
And in the NFL, there's a little red flag in that coach's pocket, and he could throw that out on the field if he doesn't like something. Also, let's not forget, in Buffalo on a Sunday, there's 70,000 referees watching, and when they throw that replay up on the screen, if it's consistently wrong, you know, the whole world's going to know it. They've been waiting all week to watch the game.
Right.
The NBA, nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching. It's the breeding ground for hocus pocus.
Yeah. You know, I'd like to have you back on maybe in a couple of months once we get into this season, Steve, and see how things are transpiring, if you'd be so kind.
I'd love to check back with you and give you my report at that time.
And where can you get the book, Bets, Drugs, and Rock and Roll?
You can get it at any single bookstore across the country, but the best place to get it is Amazon.com. It's the cheapest there, and we're #1 there for 3 weeks. Keep us #1. And if you want, you can go to sportsinfo.com, download Chapter 1. When you go to my site, Steve Budin on Sports Info, you download Chapter 1 for free, get addicted, and then go to Amazon and buy it.
Thanks very much, Steve.
All right, thank you so much.
We will be back and have time to take more of your calls. Let's take a quick break. Good stuff, I'll tell you. The NBA season starts tonight, tomorrow night. The 07-08 campaign for the Cavaliers will be on before the game and after the game. Come back to STO.